So yeah, this is Royaly Duct. It was finished for Art and Heat, and it started off. It started off with just these two characters. And there was no eggs, or this wasn't. It was just a guy pulling a woman in a wagon. And you know, I'd worked with ducks a lot in the past, and they seem to just come up. And there's, I don't know.
You've worked with ducks in the past.
Yes, I worked with ducks in the past. In my work.
That sounds like a Groucho Marx line.
They seem to just happen in my work, and I don't know. Well, there's lots of theories. They're kind of maybe I use them as like godlike, or as moral, or a compass, or something like that. I don't know. They just sort of
I got to ask you, what is that? This guy here looks like Woody Allen to me.
It's actually from the movie Freaks, which is a whole nother. I'm glad you brought that up. That's kind of it lends into a whole nother subtext, another level of the painting. Which, if you've seen Freaks, the movie from, I guess it was in the 30s, and that was a character in the movie. And if you remember the last scene of the movie, what happens to the woman is that she was taken away, and the last scene of the movie is that she is actually turned into a duck. And sitting in, and she's one of the sideshow freaks. And so this character is somewhat reminiscent of that, because she's got all of her upper body and everything, but she's full of feathers. And it's a little bit different, but...
Can you tell me how you do this? I mean, the colors are just amazing, and I don't know, how do you put together studies? I mean, you must have a lot of studies to get all this together.
No, actually, no. The colors. This again was secondary. I mean, I kind of had just a regular wagon, and this happened very quickly at the beginning before I started painting. At this point, it was just tones, and but once I established the color, that this was going to be this intense light source, and everything else kind of just fell together. And I've been working a lot more with sepia tones and earth tones.
Let's take a look at this over here. Now, what does that represent? You have a way of distorting the facial features. I noticed that with all of your paintings and illustrations, your eyes are sort of pulled to one side. Is that kind of a trademark, a style that you have
it's just something that
developed?
I've worked out over the years, and it kind of just separates me from the. I don't want to paint photographs. I want to kind of distance myself from photographs, even though they're very well rendered and fleshed out.
Yeah.
By moving the eyes apart and kind of distorting the proportions.
Look at that detail in that.
Sort of just kind of gets it a little more abstract in my eyes, anyway.
Do you use oils or watercolors, or both?
All oil.
Okay.
And there's a lot of glazes over this. A lot of different glazes.
And how do you explain the proportions here? Obviously, the legs are a little shortened here in that particular. Is that part of your style?
Yeah, usually shortened as well. I'll shorten the torsos and enlarge the head a little bit. And that's actually a very common convention in like comics and for a lot of throughout the ages, and a lot of pop art, I guess, and a lot of
You've been an illustrator your entire life, right? I guess since you were a little kid.
Well, I've been an artist all my life. I happen to do illustrations.
And there's a difference.
There is a difference, and so when I approach painting, I approach painting completely different than I approach an illustration. First of all, materials I use are completely different, and just the whole motivation. I mean, this was done completely for me. There's no client involved, and so.
And you call it Royaly Duct, right?
Royaly Duct, mostly because, and this happens over here. So in this painting, obviously the eggs are sacred, which you can read into that, the sanctity of life. And
these are babies, then, right?
Those are babies, yes. The royal babies, I suppose, sort of the babies in waiting. And they have webbed fingers as well, which is better than the next generation of something happening.
And the lighting under here, I mean, this is the part that really blows me away, is you've got this very detailed looking wagon that looks real. I mean, you can just imagine it's got a spring suspension system, and then you've got the product, and she's got no legs, so I guess the wagon is her legs, right?
I kind of wonder what's going on up under there.
Yeah.
So yeah, the eggs are sacred, and that's everything. The culture revolves around the eggs, and which might sound familiar. And over here, you can see that this lady in waiting, they each have eggs. All the ladies have their eggs.
And one of them's been dropped, it looks like.
Eggs. There's actually a little egg embryo in there.
And so that's her expression, right? That explains her expression of shock.
Yeah, that's something like that.
Now, do you have names for these people, or did you? Okay.
But that's actually where the Royaly Duct comes from, because because obviously the culture surrounds the eggs, and the fact that she has dropped the sacred egg is where the title comes from.
And what is this character here? Is he sort of an onlooker?
Guard, sort of making sure that nobody drops their eggs.
And he's not doing his job completely yet.
And so the hair, I mean, it was a fun painting. I've been doing a lot of shows out of town, and so this was the first opportunity to do a bigger painting.